It was late September, and I was driving home from a friend's house in Peoria. I'd stayed later than I meant to, and by the time I hit the county roads, it was past midnight. The sky was clear, the moon bright, and the fields on either side of the road were nothing but black waves in the night. My phone had no signal, and the only thing on the radio was a mix of oldies and static. About 20 miles from home, the static started to get worse. I tried switching stations, but every channel was the same, just white noise, with the occasional snatch of a song or a voice cutting through. I turned the volume down, but the silence felt even heavier, so I turned it back up, hoping for something familiar. That's when I heard it, a scream, faint and distant, buried in the static. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, or maybe a weird sound effect from a late-night show. But then it came again, louder this time, a raw, desperate sound that made the hair on my arms stand up. I gripped the wheel tighter, heart pounding. The scream faded, replaced by a voice soft whispering, almost too quiet to understand. "Help me," it said. "Please, help me." I tried to change the station again, but the knob wouldn't move. The static grew louder, filling the car, drowning out my thoughts. I slammed my hand on the dashboard, cursing, but the noise just kept coming. Suddenly, the headlights flickered. The engine sputtered, and the car slowed to a crawl. I pressed the gas, but the pedal felt dead under my foot. The radio crackled, and the scream came again, so loud it felt like it was inside my head. I pulled over to the side of the road, hands shaking. The fields around me were silent, the only light coming from the dashboard and the moon. I tried the ignition, but the engine just clicked, refusing to turn over. That's when I saw the figure of a woman, standing in the middle of the road, illuminated by the moonlight. She was barefoot, wearing a torn dress, her hair hanging over her face. She didn't move, just stood there, staring at the car. I locked the doors, heart racing. The radio went silent for a moment, then the static returned louder than ever. The woman started walking toward the car, slow and steady, her bare feet leaving dark prints on the asphalt. I tried to call for help, but my phone was still dead. The woman reached the driver's side window and pressed her hand against the glass. Her face was pale, her eyes wide and empty. She opened her mouth, and the scream from the radio filled the car, so loud I had to cover my ears. I closed my eyes, praying it would stop. When I opened them, the woman was gone. The road was empty, the field silent. The radio was still hissing, but the scream had faded. I tried the ignition again, and this time the engine started. I floored it, desperate to get away from that place. The radio stayed on, the static following me for miles, but the screams didn't come back. I thought it was over. I thought I'd escaped. But the night wasn't done with me yet. I drove the rest of the way home with the radio off, the silence in the car almost as bad as the static. Every so often, I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the woman running after me, her mouth open in that impossible scream. But the road stayed empty, the field still and dark. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat in the car for a long time, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. I tried to convince myself it was just exhaustion, a trick of the mind, but I couldn't shake the memory of that scream, the way it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the woman's face, pale and twisted, her hand pressed against the glass. I woke up gasping, the echo of her scream still ringing in my ears. The next morning, I checked the car. There were no footprints on the road, no marks on the window, nothing to prove what I'd seen. But when I turned on the radio, the static was still there, louder than before, almost angry. I switched it off and left it that way for weeks. A few days later, I told my story to a coworker, half expecting him to laugh. Instead, he went pale. "You heard the scream?" he asked. "My uncle used to talk about that. Said there was a stretch of road out by the old Miller farm where people would hear things on the radio voices, screams, sometimes even their own name. Folks say a woman died out there years ago, hit by a drunk driver. They never found her body. I tried to laugh it off, but the fear never really left. Now, whenever I drive those roads at night, I keep the radio off and my eyes on the pavement. Sometimes, when the world is quiet and the static creeps in, I think I hear her voice soft, desperate, begging for help. If you ever find yourself alone on a dark road and the radio starts to hiss, don't listen too closely. Some screams are meant to be ignored. And some voices, once you hear them, never really leave.